All right, guys. So this is the fantasy football rush hour week 3 recap. I am here again with Austin, Elliott, and Christian, and we are going to go over some of the key players from the day. It's been a weird week. A lot of duds, a lot of duds, a lot of studs that you wouldn't have guessed. But Christian, if you want to take it away and kick us off.
Yeah, well, hey, before I get into my first little bit, I will say I was one of the winners this week. I added Jawan Jennings from waivers on Wednesday. He was listed as a free agent, and he went off today. And I actually have Joe Mixon, and had to find somebody else to put in my flex, and it worked out. So I'm slated to win that game. But man, Jawan Jennings, he just insane stat line today.
You're a
So
genius. That's Back to the Future 2 stuff, man. You saw
yeah.
that. You went back to the almanac and be like, hey, who can I pick?
Yeah. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, I kind of thought, just through the process, I'm like, all right, well, Kittle's out. All right, well, Debo's out. Well, they have to throw it to somebody. Ayuk, with him missing training camp, their timing still isn't quite there. I mean, Jawan Jennings was great in the Super Bowl. He's just their wide receiver three, just doesn't get as much attention. But man, he really showed out today.
The one they paid him,
Yeah.
like they
Mhm.
actually signed him to a proper contract last season, so
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Well, hey, before I get into my segment, like I said, I want to share that little piece, but one area I really want to talk about is the running back position. As we've seen this year, running backs have really grown in popularity, and their usage really seems to be up and increased across the NFL. If you think of some of the top running backs, Saquon, he was really great a couple of years ago with the Giants, and got traded to the Eagles, and look at him now. He is doing fantastic with his team so far. Alvin Kamara, I know we talked last week. We really thought, or a lot of us thought, he was really going to have a, say, falling off, but more of like a slow decline this year, just with his usage and the new offensive regime that they have in New Orleans. But we've seen a lot of usage for some of the top running backs this season. So as the season wanes on, maybe one idea that you can do to help your roster is try to target some of these top handcuffs and really think about adding them to your roster. Some of the top handcuffs that are already starting, we've got Zach Charbonnet. He's taken over for Kenneth Walker. We've also got Cam Akers. He started today in place of Joe Mixon. Carson Steele, if you watched the Chiefs game that just ended, he also started today. Interesting segment that NBC seems to really love him. But he started today
His
with the
pet
Chiefs.
alligator.
Sisters getting married.
Oh yeah, big big player. But and then Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason really started the season because McCaffrey was not able to start week one. But all these guys were really great handcuffs. Handcuffs being, hey, you've got a really dominant number one running back. Maybe try to find somebody else who is a running back too that you can pair with, or is going to come in and relieve that starting running back for any kind of carries, maybe as the game or the season goes on. So some of the top handcuffs that I recommend, Jamal Williams. I mentioned earlier that Alvin Kamara is doing great right now, but he is getting older. He is also he can be at times injury prone, and so if you use this example, if their usage continues to increase, the chance of them missing time, whether just rest or injury, could also increase. So number one I have is Jamal Williams. He's available in 90% of leagues. His pass catching really does help him with the Saints offense. You're not going to see him get a ton of points right now, but maybe rostering him and adding him to your roster in the next couple of weeks can really pay dividends maybe later in the season. Next, I have Tyler Algier. He is the running back number two for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, he did play some today, and so you may have seen him in the Sunday night football game that just ended, but he's been available in 55% of leagues. Number three, Braylon Hall. Braylon Allen, sorry. He is the running back two for the Jets. He's available in 70% of leagues.
Can't
So
legally buy alcohol. He's
can't legally.
literally twice as young
Yep,
as his quarterback.
exactly.
40
But
year old Aaron Rodgers, 20-year-old Braylon Hall. Just pick him for that. Like, come on. He literally on primetime Thursday night on Amazon, and he can't go buy a beer. Come
yep.
on.
Hey, can't really celebrate in style. And then the other two running backs, I've got Trey Benson. He is the backup running back for the Arizona Cardinals. He's available in around 65% of leagues, according to ESPN. And then Kenneth Gainwell. He is the current backup for the Eagles if Saquon Barkley were to miss time. Again, these five backs I've just recommended, they could be used next week. They could be used in the next 10 weeks. We really don't know. But maybe adding one of these handcuffs to your roster now, they're probably not going to be as readily available later in the season. So add them to your roster now where they're easy and you can. So question I'll pose to this group here, of the handcuffs that are out there, are there any handcuffs that maybe you recommend to our audience to maybe add to their roster?
I think Braylon Allen is a must add. I believe the Jets do a good job of utilizing the running backs. Obviously, Brees Hall gets a lot of work. Running backs don't always stay healthy. Brees Hall even got injured, 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And he looked good, and he is getting playing time now, even when Brees Hall is healthy. Another one I can't remember if you mentioned him or not was Bucky Irvin for the
Yeah.
Bucks.
Oh,
Rashad White has not looked great rushing the ball. I mean, he catches out of the backfield. Bucky Irvin actually looks better to me, running out of the backfield. So he may be somebody to kind of stash for the time being.
Hey,
And
if I can add this to Bucky Irving, looking at stats earlier, he actually outpaced Rashad White for a lot of the touches today.
yeah,
So maybe that's an increase, and maybe we'll see that continue.
yeah, as a Rashad White owner, I was very familiar with that breakout. I mean, Irving went 9 for 70, 9 for 70, 7.8 average. Rashad went 6 for 17 for a 2.8 average. And last season, Rashad was I mean, I think he was a top 10 running back in terms of fantasy production because of kind of the dual threat ability he had. And I'm obviously extremely disappointed as a Rashad owner. It kind of hurts, but that was one as for self interest that I was keeping up with. And Bucky Irving, it feels a little bit like what was going on in Pittsburgh last year, where Najee was getting the touches, but Jalen Warren was just outplaying it. Like Warren was just actually running the ball better than Najee
yep.
here. It's flipped a little bit this year. Najee seems to be back, but um,
Mm.
not back, but I mean he's
Okay.
not
He
last year.
improved. He
Last year
improved.
Najee was bad. He's better than last year.
I think
But
Najee's good to beat down and wear down a defense.
Yeah.
Just the way the Steelers play, defense is
Hmm.
dominant. Justin Fields doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And Najee Harris is there just to beat him up. And, they get a change of pace with Jalen Warren. They kick a lot of field goals with Boswell, but I thought Justin Fields played well today, but I didn't mean to kind of segue. But yeah, Najee Harris, he's just there to kind of fill those rushing stats.
yeah, well, and Christian, like you're talking about handcuffs for obviously backs. I think the theme for 22 teams out there is that maybe even more is that there's not even a lead back. I mean, look at Chicago. I mean, who are they running with? They've got four guys. Look at the Broncos, who they're running with. Bo Nix is probably I think he's second, and it was in carries behind Badgie, and but then McLaren and the Williams are got like three or four carries each. I mean, the frustrating thing for fantasy over the past like 5-ish years probably is the death of the lead back. I mean, is running back committee by committee, um, and so you're 100% right on the handcuffs like the Braylon Allen and that, but some of these guys just need some of these rooms just need an injury. And as a human, I don't want any injuries.
That's
Like I don't
bad to
want anyone to
say.
get hurt. No one to get hurt.
Hey, that's why I said if they were to miss time.
But
Hey, maybe they catch cold.
22 of these rooms need any injury in one of their rooms to have anything happen, like with the Bears or the uh, Broncos or the Bucks, that kind of stuff. And
Dude,
it's if you've got, I mean, there's probably only what like 10 maybe even less must start running backs in the league right now. Probably 5 must start running backs in the league right now.
Yeah.
do you
Honestly, I mean, I
think
think to
that?
that
Oh,
point,
go ahead. Go
Austin,
ahead.
honestly, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I like at this point, like there really are only like two or three running backs in the league where you could say that's my dude. But I think from what I'm seeing, not just this year, but like you said, for the past like I'd say maybe like about 7 years, the running back position really is like you got to kind of have that waiver wire open at all times, just kind of hit refresh because you never know what's going to come. Like I would even go as far as to say there's really only like 2017, like there's only like maybe 6 teams where there's like that that guy. But every other team, it's the hot hand, it's the injury, it's the practice report, it's the game script. Because I mean, like the days of the Chris Johnson, LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson, like that guy is kind of done. So
Yeah.
with a running back position, you almost have to look at it like just who's hot, read those practice reports, like just kind of understand what's going on.
Yeah, the running back in the flex position is dead because at this point, I mean, if you're in a 10-team league, you've got a roster 20 running backs. You really want the 21st best running back as your flex? I'd probably rather have the 37th best receiver in terms of floor and ceiling for that boom bust. And so it's a tough position to be in. I mean, Christian, that's a solid analysis of kind of what we're looking at because a lot of times if you don't have bona fide getters in those first two spots, RB1, RB2, you're stashing and hoping. I mean, seeing what's going to happen, and sometimes it's a war of attrition. You may have to cut some guys that you don't want to go, you don't want to let go, like a tight end 2 or a wide receiver 4, to try to stash a running back for later in the season, trying to catch lightning in a bottle.
And I would say when it comes to the running back thing on like the waiver wire, like this is something that bit me today. I wasn't playing against this guy, but this is the guy that I thought about grabbing, and something told me not to get him, and I was just absolutely wrong. Chuba Hubbard for the Panthers, like killed it today. Just
Oklahoma State great.
absolutely,
Every time
just
you say his name,
absolutely.
Oklahoma State legend, Chuba Hubbard. Come
So
on.
Chuba Hubbard, Oklahoma State legend, absolutely killed it. And something told me to get him, and I was like, nah, Panther player. And the Raiders defense had been playing actually surprisingly well. So I said, nah, not gonna do it. But if you look at Chuba Hubbard's week 1 and week 2, yes, the Panthers were bad, but he was getting touches. Like he was touching the ball. So I think one thing about, you got to look at, especially with these running backs that Christian looked at, like how many targets are they getting? How many touches are they getting? Even if they were bad, if they're getting touches, that means they're getting touches. Like you gotta take the chance on that. So don't be like me and just ignore it. Like if a guy's getting touches, give him a shot.
Well, and like with a selfish interest of being growing up in Oklahoma State fan, I keep up with Oklahoma State guys, and Chuba was a dude at Oklahoma State, and
Mm-hmm.
even when he came into the league, he's always been one of those guys that you could see the big play potential, you could see the skill, and they found ways to scheme around him and get him the ball even from his rookie season on. But I think obviously last week we buried the Panthers. The Panthers were going to be relegated to the college ranks, and we were going to promote Georgia or Ohio State or any other team besides the
Mm-hmm.
Florida Panthers. And the Red Rocket apparently can still play. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. And I was a Bryce apologist last week, and I still think he's an incredible player. But tough look for Bryce Young, for Andy Dalton to come in and throw 3 touchdowns and like 350 yards. Like it kind of hurts my heart a little bit for Bryce. But
And Andy Dalton at this point of his draft class, he's outlasted all of them. He outlasted Cam Newton for what it's worth.
So perfect segue. I was not a Bryce Young apologist last week. I came on here and I said it.
Don't strain your shoulder, Warren.
I said it
That's
week
okay.
1. I said it week 2. I said everybody's talking about Carolina and he doesn't have weapons. He doesn't have a no line. I said in the offseason, they got Deontay Johnson, who is pretty good with the Steelers. I still think Adam Thielen can make third down catches. And I thought Chuba Hubbard was a decent running back in the league. Then they drafted Xavier Leggett for what it's worth.
Jonathan Brooks.
They
Hey, man,
they drafted
great
him Jonathan
personality.
Brooks, who just went on IR. So I wasn't too upset at Carolina's organization for trying to build around Bryce. They even drafted Jonathan Mingo, who's like done nothing. I think he's from Ole Miss, if I'm not mistaken.
I think LSU. I don't know.
Or LSU.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton,
He should be
26.
great. LSU wide receiver. That's a
Exactly. 26 to 37, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. And everybody was talking about the Raiders defense, pick up the Raiders defense. I resisted because I said that feels like a trap. I thought the team would be inspired because of the quarterback change. And I just felt there was the touchdown pass that Andy Dalton threw to Deontay Johnson. I think it was the first one. He was actually pressured on that play. He took 2 steps and dropped a dime in the corner of the end zone. That play was not going to be made by Bryce Young. Like I hate it for him. I think he's a good kid, but somebody's got to be a realist here. And yes, his feelings are hurt. I don't like to see him down, but you were not good. And his explanation on when he got benched, he said, I didn't win enough games. I didn't do enough. I understand their decision. Yeah, like their jobs are on the line just as much as yours, or even more. Because if you go out and lose games, they wasted a first round pick on you, and you've seen Carolina go through what, 7 coaches in how many seasons? I can't even remember, but they've gone through a ton of coaches. So yeah, he had to make that change. I know it's all about the future, but his job is on the line. All those coaches' jobs are on the line. All the players' jobs are on the line. People were thinking Deontay Johnson was washed. People probably didn't even know who Chuba Hubbard was until today.
Oklahoma State, great.
Adam Thielen, you haven't heard from him since what, Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, I thought Andy Dalton was a gut check punch for the Panthers. He came out and played well. The reason I wasn't really sold on the Raiders defense because I thought it was pretty much Max Crosby or die. And when you're not up, teams can run on you. So he doesn't get that chance to just rush back there and sack. Same thing that happened to Elliott's Dallas Cowboys. They can't play with a lead, so they can't get the pass rush, and they're just getting smashed right up the middle, right up the gut. They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. So
They can't
I
complete a pass. They suck.
I didn't think Andy Dalton would go for 303. I honestly predicted him for about 201. But I mean, my God, they looked like the Saints did weeks 1 and 2. And that was on a good defense. It was on the road. And Chuba Hubbard looks like a main priority if he's sitting out there in your league. I think
Mhm.
Deontay Johnson looks like a main priority. I mean, he had 14 targets. Next closest person I think had 5. And that's with game script. I mean, they were up. So
Fantasy football is a target. It's a target game. It's
it's
a
a
touches
target
and target
league.
game.
So I don't know. I'm not a Bryce apologist. I don't know him personally. He doesn't know me personally. Look, you didn't play well. You sucked. I hate it for you. I don't want to give him the Tua treatment that Tua got from Miami's head coach, but you suck. Like you need to go back in the lab, study film. This is the same team that Bryce Young had that Andy Dalton just put out there. The same team. And they put up what, 36 points, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
Hey, Warren,
so
hey, I'm going to add something to that. Andy Dalton had time. He had protection.
he did, but there were times where he got rushed.
Yeah.
There
And
were
Bryce Young
times
had good protection.
he
Warren,
met.
you mentioned that like it's not our text
Mm,
now, but Bryce Young had good protection. If you look at
yep.
the game tape, he had time back there.
The game versus the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken, Bryce Young had 4 rushes, I think. Not like rushing attempts, but pressure. Sorry, he had like
Mhm.
4 or 5
Mhm.
pressures. And sometimes, or from what I saw, Bryce Young held the ball too long. So of course, when you're looking at highlights or lowlights, you think, oh man, he doesn't have a line, or they're not doing this for him. They're not I mean, dude, 3 steps back, 1, 2, 3, the ball has to be gone. If it's not, you got to move
Mhm.
around in the pocket. You're a smaller guy, so maybe you should work on your quickness and speed, like a Kyler Murray, where you can move around and get away.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I'm not a Bryce Young apologist, dude. There's 1,000 people in the NFL. There's 1,000 people who want your spot in the NFL. You got to play better.
Mhm.
But
Well, and I don't know if I'd ever envision myself as a Bryce Young apologist. But the reality is, you are 100% right. In this version of Bryce Young is broken. He is broken. He cannot play football at a starting quarterback level. It's kind of what I alluded to last week. Is I think last season just broke this dude. Like he's just shattered. I don't think he can start right now, but I don't think he can't take the path of a Baker Mayfield, of a Sam Darnold, of a reset where, I mean, not just his own team that drafted him said he's like the most cerebral and smartest and quickest dude to pick up an offense that they've ever went through the draft process with. Like multiple teams have said that. That doesn't go away. I think last season destroyed him. For a fantasy perspective, Bryce Young is not useful in any way, shape, or form this year. From a football perspective, I think Bryce needs to leave. He needs to leave. He needs to be gone. He needs to go somewhere where he's not the guy. You talk about Dalton coming in and doing well. I think a part of that is because, I mean, how long has Andy Dalton been in the league?
Mhm.
He's
Oh
been in the league
wow,
a
He's
long
been in
time.
what 5 or 6 different
four,
teams.
four, 14. I think it's year 14 for him, or
Yeah.
15.
You talk about zero pressure for Andy Dalton coming into that,
Yep.
like zero pressure. I harped on Baker watching him in college and what happened to him with the Browns and stuff. Baker Mayfield is a confidence-based quarterback. If Baker feels the love, Baker's gonna cook. So I feel like
Denver gave him love today.
He didn't cook today.
he didn't cook, but come on, it's Baker. It's Baker. If Baker was the Browns quarterback that we thought he was, he wouldn't even be in this position. So,
Yeah.
like, I from a fan perspective, the Gospel of Warren is the fifth book of the New Testament. We're good. You're 100% right. You're 100% right.
But
But from
also,
a
hey, you make a great point though. I mean, if you look at just quarterbacks in general, and I mean, if you really think about who is a top quarterback in this league, at least fantasy perspective, dude, Sam Darnold pops up on your list. And so it really does show you it's not about the team you go to, it's about the coaching fit. Sam Darnold, man, he's having a great year. Baker Mayfield, he's having a great year. Yes, today was off. But these are guys who are left for dead. They went to their original organization, maybe they got traded, and it just wasn't a fit. And now that we're seeing coaches are taking time, putting weapons around them, building an offense around them, man, they're flourishing.
Yeah, and a
yeah,
lot of
Warren,
times it is like just honestly, a lot of times it's just maturity. And I think Baker Mayfield is like the perfect. And Baker Mayfield himself, he won't say it exactly because he's kind of a prideful guy, but he'll basically tell you like I wasn't the most mature person. A lot of the times it's just you weren't mature, but the talent was there, and I think that's what has kind of happened with the two of them. I don't know about Bryce Young as a guy, but I mean I think he can get it together somewhere else where he's has time to be a little older, a little wiser. So, but yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
so the Panthers are back, Warren, right? The Panthers are back. Start them all. Start them
Look, I
all.
won't say they're back. I don't think they're going to score 30 points a game. I do think they will have useful players now in fantasy
Mm-hmm.
because they're starting Andy Dalton. Of course, they're going to have that one game where they're going to be a bust. They're going to get smacked. And people are going to say, see, now you need to go back to Bryce Young. No, every NFL team gets smacked. Look at the Texans. They lost 34-7.
Yeah.
It happens. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think they will have useful players now. Chuba Hubbard is going to be a
Yeah.
priority. Deontay Johnson is probably going to be a priority. I wouldn't be surprised if people picked up Adam Thielen. I wouldn't be surprised if people picked up Andy Dalton, especially in 2 QB leagues.
Yeah.
But it was much improved. Like it actually looked like they practiced
It looked like
this
a
week
professional
watching
football
them play.
team.
Yeah, they looked
Mm-hmm.
like a professional football team.
Well, and
Um,
I think from a fan perspective, you're right. Where like if you drafted a Chuba Hubbard or a Deontay Johnson, now you actually can consider playing them.
yeah.
Last week you were like, nope. Anyone with a Panther on their jersey, they are not playing. This week, the waiver wire's tricky. It's week 3. Good Lord. I mean, like with the Bears and the Broncos and that kind of stuff, like you're trying to figure out if it's a boom, a bust, if they have a good week or not. But if you have Chuba Hubbard on your roster already, or if you have Deontay Johnson on your roster already, uh, now you actually feel like, okay, now I don't have a dead spot in my
Mm-hmm.
lineup. Like I may actually consider playing them, which is refreshing. And then, like you said, Andy Dalton from a streaming perspective, give him another week. All of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
bye weeks start rolling around through weeks, 5 on. Andy Dalton
Mm-hmm.
might be a streamer, man. Like,
And Austin, hey, I'm going to add to that. I mean, if you drafted Chuba Hubbard, if you drafted Adam Thielen, hey, now may be the time to trade them. At
Trade,
least they
yeah.
have value.
100%.
Maybe they
Great
have
call.
some perspective. Yeah, try to see what
Try
you
to
can.
yeah, see what you can sell high or sell mid. I don't know.
Sell in the back alley. Yeah.
Yeah,
So first game, Giants, Browns, Christian, go.
Neighborly.
Elliott.
Deshaun's done.
Austin.
Brown's bad. Danny Dimes is back.
All right. Malik Neighbors is real, and Singletary is underrated. Those are my takes. Next game we got Packers, Titans, Christian.
Oops. And oops, because it just seems like every week Will Levis just finds a new way to cough up the ball, fumble the ball. Can't explain it.
Elliott.
I'll give you like a take.
Okay.
And this is really almost irrelevant of how well he plays this year, but I think Aaron Rodgers will regret leaving Matt LaFleur.
Ooh.
Okay. Austin.
Will Levis is Ryan Leaf 2.0, and Matt LaFleur is the guy. Like, just sign him to a lifetime contract.
Yeah, mine is. I was saying it all day. Matt LaFleur, Coach of the Year. I don't care what happens. To go 2-0 with Malik Willis, that is impressive, especially how he's been.
Malik Willis MVP question mark?
Yeah. And Titans, Will Levis is bad. I mean, the turnovers. Jesus.
Hey,
Um,
before we move on, I'm going to add this about Malik Willis.
mhm.
A lot of us went to Auburn. Malik Willis and Bo Nix. Who would have thought? Both of them on the same roster. Both of them would have started the exact same Sunday in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean,
It looked good.
Auburn product.
Anyone who went to Auburn would believe that, because when a quarterback leaves Auburn, they do well.
There you go. Next game, Bears, Colts. Christian.
Yeah, it's not a one word, but this isn't college.
All right. Elliot.
Yeah. I think I got to say for the game, I'll give a Bears take. Like your talent can only get you so far in the league. If you're not well refined and making the right decisions, it doesn't matter how talented you are.
Austin.
Both of them need another year.
Okay. Mine is Anthony Richardson's overrated. Um, Jonathan Taylor is a great back, and I think Caleb Williams will get better. That's my take. Next game, Texans, Vikings, Christian.
I don't really have a one worder. I still think Kevin O'Connell. I think he is a fantastic head coach, and I'll just leave it there. If you look at what he's had, he's always done great. He's made crap out of potato salad. He does a great job.
Elliot.
Yeah, I would say to me, this game is the perfect representation of how NFL and college football are different. If this was a college football game, if this was college football, the Texans are winning it no matter what. But in the NFL, any team give any team. When you
Any
got
given
professional,
Sunday.
any given Sunday, and nobody would have thought the Vikings would have won it, and nobody thought they'd win it the way they did.
Yep. Austin.
Elliot, I won't accept that college football slander because because Northern Illinois has something to say about that.
And James Madison.
And James Madison. If
yeah.
you want to care about the name on the front of your jersey, then Northern Illinois. Although this week they lost, so oh well, it's up to me. What's the game?
Texans, Vikings.
Yeah, O'Connell for coach of the year. I think if Jordan Love comes back next week, and O'Connell finds success for the rest of the year, man, O'Connell's a stud. He's ridiculous.
Yeah, mine will be how did we miss Aaron Jones? He played very, very well. And is Sam Darnold a legit top 10 fantasy quarterback? Can't deny it. I thought Houston would give him troubles. Nope, not at all.
Justin Jefferson sure helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next game, kind of weird. Eagles and Saints. Christian.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I didn't watch the game, but I did see the ending. New head coach.
Yeah, I see that. Elliot.
I would say Saints come down to earth
Yeah.
and they crashed.
Austin.
I'd say we don't know a damn thing. Like, come on, that game, like, come on, we don't know a damn thing.
I'll say this. I put Rashid Shaheed on my parlay today, and he,
How'd that do for you?
yeah, he had a goose egg. I
You
will
should put
say
Chuba.
this.
Should have put Chuba.
That just confirmed that I think the Saints and Eagles have good defenses. Um, Eagles can be gotten. They locked
You've
in
been cooking the
today.
Eagles for 3 weeks, man.
Yeah. Um, they brought the Saints down to earth, and I really don't know how. Just watching that game, it just looked off. And maybe, like I said, it's just one of those weeks where it's not clicking. But I think the Saints will be back. I think once Devontae Smith and AJ Brown come back, Jalen Hurts will be back to where he was. Um, and they'll keep on moving. I'm not gonna say they're gonna win, but their offense will be much better.
I will say one more thing
Um,
about the Eagles.
yeah,
I know the Chiefs get kind of most of the love right now because just where they've been dominating. But I think if you look at the NFL, at least the last like 15 years, there are not many organizations that are better run than the Eagles. And to me, that was just the Eagles being the Eagles. When
they
it
have a
all,
great GM.
Yeah.
yes,
If someone's
Mhm.
getting fired, it's not Howie Grossman.
Yeah.
It's going to be Nick Sirianni because Howie
Mhm.
Grossman has, I mean, he's the Billy Bean or the Tampa Bay Rays GM
He's the AC Buford
of
from the
robbing
Spurs.
folks. Like,
Yeah.
how does he keep getting away with this?
hmm Yep. Next game, Chargers Steelers. Christian.
Field of dreams in that one.
Elliott.
uh, Herbert was hurt, so you got or not 100%. So you got to keep that in
Again,
mind. Again, keep that in mind.
Mhm.
But you just can't ever quit on Mike Tomlin. That's the takeaway. You can't quit on Mike Tomlin.
Okay. Austin.
Jim Harbaugh wants to be Mike Tomlin one day. That's the takeaway because Mike Tomlin, man, just finds a way. Like, I love Jim Harbaugh, but like Mike Tomlin, man, holy cow.
Yeah. My takeaway is the Steelers are a contender. Um, their defense is really good.
TJ
Um,
Watt.
I think that Justin Fields brings an element where he can cause problems as a rushing quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a world beater, but I do think they're kind of copying a little of that recipe of dominant defense, ball control, and keep your offense off the field. And they
And
have a kicker who's like the most accurate in NFL history from 50 yards, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Boswell. So,
I'll harp
um,
Yeah,
in just a
and
second. Like Justin Fields,
3-0, baby.
he looks. I harp on it the confidence. Like he's coming into a situation where he knows what's expected of him. Like the decision making. Like Justin Fields doesn't have to be a world beater, and he doesn't.
hmm
He's not playing that way. Like
Yep.
I'm supremely impressed with
Yep.
Justin Fields. And the pick today was a rebound, like bounce off up in the air, like crazy, not bad decision pick. Like I'm super impressed with Justin Fields, and I mean, I guess I can add like Russ Wilson, perpetual backup would be my other take of it. Like
I was
Russ,
going to jump in and add that too. Like this,
yeah,
that we might be seeing kind of his end.
yeah,
It's like they keep winning with Field, and Field keeps getting better. Like,
Yeah.
and they're not. And hey, they're not paying Wilson that much money. They're only paying him $3 million because the Broncos are paying most of his salary. So
well,
Yeah.
the 70 million to not play for the team, sure, son. Yeah, I no, I was going to say my dream is to be either a fired SEC head coach or a backup quarterback that just or a quarterback that recently signed a guaranteed contract that is back up somewhere. Those are the two best jobs in the world.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's living the dream, and every fired SEC head coach is living the dream.
um, my take for Chargers Steelers, again, Justin Fields, um, I think the Steelers could be a contender, especially with the Bengals struggling. Ravens struggling. I don't read too much into today's game just because it's Dallas and they actually almost gave up the game. And then the Browns just suck to me. So Steelers could win that division, could get a home playoff game.
you
But
never know what Cincinnati's going. You never know what you're going to get with them.
Yeah. T. Higgins is back, so we'll see tomorrow. Next game I've got Broncos Bucks. Christian 26-7.
I'll say giddy up, man. Y'all see Bo Nix? Bo Nix looking
Yeah.
up.
Yep.
Now, Elliott, I know you've heard this before. He's young. He's having fun. He could be a dark horse MVP candidate.
He's
So
I mean, he's not
focused. He's
that young.
focused.
What is he, like 30, married with kids? Bo Nix has been in the league a while, man. I mean, like,
Yeah.
he looks
Elliott.
good.
Uh, I think it's almost kind of similar to my take on the Vikings Texans. Any given Sunday. I mean, these grown men. You cannot take anybody for granted in the NFL when it's grown men versus grown men. But you also got to give props to. Some people have said that Bo Nix is probably going to be the best rookie because he's got the best coach who's an offensive mind. And I
Mhm.
think today, even though the defense played good, today kind of shows that. Like if you give him a great situation with a great coach who knows what he's doing, he's going to be good. So I think those are kind of my two takeaways.
Okay. Um, Austin?
you about to skip me again, more.
No.
This hurt my feelings. No, I'm gonna take Elliott's cue and repeat the same thing for the Eagles Saints. We don't know a damn thing. We don't know a damn thing between the Saints and the Broncos and the Bucks. But in our text chain, I said I could see Bo Nix being similar to Tua without the brain trauma. Um, the right system, the right coach, the right play style. Could Bo Nix play for 31 other teams? No, but if he plays for the one team that he needs to play for, with Sean Payton, that quick offense, could be sneaky. Could be sneaky. And the Bucks just could be a down game. Any, like Elliott said, any given Sunday, but really week 3, we don't know a damn thing.
My take is yes, Bo Nix played extremely well. I was proud to see him in the way he played, but Denver's defense, I mean, the Bucks were coming in high, coming in hot, and they pretty much shut him down except for Chris Godwin, and that was very impressive, especially on the road. So
Shout out to Elliott, giving props to Godwin
oh
last
yeah.
week or the week before. Like that, he's gonna get his catches.
Yep. Next game I have, we've talked about this one, Panthers Raiders. Christian.
I say too soon to tell. Great game from Andy Dalton, and it just proves the pieces are there. He just needs somebody to lead it.
Yeah.
Really too early to tell. We'll see if Carolina can, we'll say, resurrect their season. They're not going to win anything. Not going to win the division, but can they win? We'll say 5 or 6 games this year and string something along. So we'll see.
Elliot.
Really, not so much a takeaway, more of a question. And it's really more of a question of how long does it last? And that's with Antonio Pierce. I think he's a great guy. Like I really root for him to do well, but I think Vegas as a place is not the most talented. They don't have a quarterback. They don't seem to be like always have great plan for Devontae Adams right now. So I'm just really kind of trying to see like how long can Antonio Pierce last? Like can he turn it around? Can he kind of make a name for himself and figure things out?
Austin.
Brock Bowers heartbreak, because I was beating the drum for Brock Bowers last week. Luckily,
You were.
luckily I was playing Warren with Isaiah Likely, who I
Oh my
trashed
God.
last week, and that like 8 points I got from Bowers did better than the 2 that he got from Likely.
No, it wasn't
Uh,
even two.
well, good, because you
Yep.
you had Saquon, so I hope that's not fair. But no, Elliot, you're on the ball and you're on the point in the sense of I think Antonio Pierce has the locker room, which is all that matters, and they're a quarterback away from being competent. Because can you imagine getting any kind of quarterback play with Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams, Max Crosby on that, and Christian Wilkins on the other side of the ball? Now, I'm not saying they're a playoff team with a good quarterback, but they are significantly better than what they are now. So I think Antonio Pierce has enough leash at least through next season. If they end up drafting, if they end up bringing in someone, but Brock Bowers heartbreak. I'm oh, he's still going to be my tight end one and start him every week because Dalton Kincaid's even worse. But it's tough year for tight ends unless you have Cole Kmet randomly.
Um, I will say my takeaway from that game is again, Panthers may have useful fantasy players now with Andy Dalton, and the Raiders should trade Devontae Adams and see what they can get for him. That's my take.
First round from the Jets. First round pick from the
Yep.
Jets.
Next game, Dolphins, Seahawks. Christian.
Mac Magic. And I say that because Mike McDonald's done really, really well up in Seattle. I really didn't think he was going to do well. Not just, downing him. I just did not think him being obviously a new head coach, trying to adapt the system from Pete Carroll, keeping a lot of the same weapons, Jackson Smith and Jigma, also having Geno Smith. They have really exceeded what I thought they would be at this point.
Elliott.
I underestimated Tua. Now, granted, it's one game against McDaniel, who's obviously, McDonald, who's obviously a great defensive mind. He basically was the architect of the Ravens defense and Michigan's defense because that was basically something that he kind of set in stone in college. But I mean, you saw that offense today, and I saw some of the game. They kind of looked without Tua's back there, didn't look that great. So maybe Tua was better than we give him credit for, at least that I gave him credit for.
Austin.
Yeah, the Dolphins are irrelevant without Tua. That's why he got paid, not because Tua is the best quarterback, but because Tua is the best quarterback for that system.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to execute it at a level that no one could that they had on their team. And you pay quarterbacks based on the ability to produce in the system that they're in. And I think Mike McDaniel's a great coach. And like you said, Elliott, I was never on the Tua hate train, but the reality is without Tua, Dolphins don't matter.
And if I can add this, even with the Dolphins, I mean, they went through, obviously Tua was not playing. He was on the sideline helping. Tua didn't play. Skylar Thompson also got hurt. So, I mean, once you get to your QB3, I don't really know how viable your team is going to be. I know this is only September, but if you look at long term, unless you trade for a quarterback or trade some of your weapons for a quarterback, it may just be a lost season.
My take is I wouldn't use any of the Dolphins outside of Achane until Tua comes back. And if you are a Zach Charbonnet owner, you hope that Kenneth Walker is out 1 or 2 more weeks so you can use him. And by the way, the league I play Austin in had DK Metcalf. Just wanted to throw that out there. So next game I
You had
have
Saquon. Come on, you got Saquon. You can't be like, oh, he's got all the.
Next game I have here is gonna be Ravens Cowboys. Christian.
All right, so tale of two parts. I did not believe that the Cowboys were coming back. So I actually called Elliott, and I was actually driving back to Birmingham, and man, I had no idea that the Cowboys came back and almost won. Obviously lost by 3. So the one-liner I'll put here is we'll say starless. Cowboys we'll say they have all the pieces. They have the quarterback. They have the star receiver. They have some stars on the defensive side of the ball. They just haven't put it together. So we'll say starless.
Okay. Elliott.
I will premise like anything I say is like I'm a Cowboys fan. So for those who watch this, I'm a fan of the Cowboys. I mean, I think the takeaway is Lamar Jackson. I don't know the exact number. I'm probably going to be off 2 or 3 in some direction, but against NFC teams, I'm pretty sure Lamar Jackson is like something in 1, like 30-1 against NFC teams.
Mm.
And that just goes to show you how good he is. Because if you're a team in the NFC, which if you're in the NFC, you're not playing as many AFC teams the way they do the schedule. So teams get on the field against Lamar Jackson and they are caught off guard, or NFC teams at least. So I think today's game really just goes to show you how good Lamar Jackson is, and the comment I made about the Eagles being one of the most well-run organizations in the past 10, 15 years.
Hmm.
Well, the Ravens are like right up there with them.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the past like 15 years in the NFL, it's basically the Eagles, Ravens, Patriots, and Chiefs. Like that's basically like how to run a business. So to me, it it wasn't a shock at all, but I think that just speaks to how good Lamar Jackson is and how good the Ravens are.
Austin?
I mean, I grew up 2.5 hours from DFW in southwestern Oklahoma in the 90s. So you want to talk about like seeing what the Cowboys can do, man. Come on. Like I know 90s Cowboys with that crew, but no run defense is the three-word answer. Like Micah Parsons is a top five defensive player in the league, losing Bland this
Yep.
year, who was the pick six king last year. Um, but that, I mean, run defense is just non-existent, and I don't know how you fix that. Like it looks like what Elliott was alluding to earlier with college football team. You know, like it's Georgia versus Samford, my alma mater.
Yeah.
Like grown men against small children is what it kind of looks like when people are running against the Dallas Cowboys,
Yep.
and that just doesn't turn around overnight, and it's gonna be a problem. Um, and so it's tough. It's going to be tough for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and add on to that too. I think the problem with, and I'll say our, so if I say our, that's why I'm saying the problem with our run defense is technically our run defense was a problem last year, but when we were dominating the way we were and we were getting leads, obviously they're not running the ball on us, so that's how Micah can eat. That's how a lot of the players can, like Demarcus Lawrence, can eat because you got to pass to keep up with us.
Yep.
But I remember saying last year being like, man, if we run into a team that can just be steady and run the ball, like it's gonna be rough. And we played Green Bay. What happened?
Well, and New
Steady run
Orleans.
the ball. And New Orleans,
Yep.
steady run the ball. So that I would just say like that's one of those things where like sometimes when everything's going right for you, that's actually a bad thing because you're not seeing the flaw. And
Yeah.
we didn't see the flaw and it hadn't fixed yet.
No. My takeaway is run the ball on Dallas. Um, and if you have Dak Prescott as your quarterback, you should hope for this kind of recipe. Catch up time stats, they count in fantasy. He had a great game fantasy wise, but obviously they were down big. So that would be my takeaway from this game. Um, Next game I have is kind of a weird game. 49ers and the Rams. Christian.
Man, I tell you, what a classic. I'm gonna say letdown.
Yeah.
Not letdown from a fan perspective. Letdown from 49ers had that game won. I think I told Elliott just on the phone, why in the world, if you're the 49ers, why do you punt to them? Punt it out of bounds. So great game just in general. I thought we learned a lot about the 49ers. Obviously, Sean McVay, great head coach. Matthew Stafford still has that arm, but yeah, I would say letdown.
Okay. Elliot.
Yeah, this is a weird game to take away from because of at least from a fantasy standpoint because of how many players were hurt that actually didn't play in the game.
Hmm.
But I think it. I mean, really, if I have to give you a takeaway, it's just like Matthew Stafford is that dude. Like, don't he may not be like. See, we get kind of carried away with like the hot new thing, like look at Lamar doing this and Caleb Williams doing that and Mahomes, but like all the while with those guys been kind of running back and forth. Stafford's just been in the corner doing his thing, just being steady, just head down, doing his job. And
Yeah.
today he showed like again why he is one of the maybe the most underrated quarterback of all time. Because even with his top two receivers that are out, that are like two studs, along with no Aaron Donald, and a defense that was really struggling to stop the 49ers, he kept it coming. And we got to give him his props.
Yep. Austin.
Third time's the charm. We don't know a damn thing. I mean, like it's the chaos of the parody of the NFL. I mean, Elliott's 100%. He was beating the drum. I think week one about a handful of quarterbacks that were underrated, and Matthew Stafford was one of them. And so like there's the football versus the fantasy. The football is like this was a great football game. Like
Hmm.
this was what you expect the NFL parody to be like with a Sean McVay team and a Matthew Stafford against a both teams had a ton of injuries. Like you don't know what this is going to look like from a fantasy perspective, but from a football perspective, you're like, I'm not overly surprised for the outcome because of just the chaos on both sides of the ball. I mean,
Yeah.
Rams and 49ers, everyone's injured. But from a fantasy perspective, I mean, you pretty much had one play, which was Kyron Williams, and that was it. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's the only one you could rely on. And so going forward from a fantasy perspective, you're just like, you don't know a damn thing. Like that's all it is with all the injuries.
Um, my takeaway is the drop passes. If you watch the game,
Mm,
Brock Purdy's receivers dropped a lot of passes. Ronnie Bell dropped the one that would have put him in field goal range
so
to hit the game winner. Um, so I believe in Brock Purdy. As far as the Rams, it's kind of hard to say. I don't think Stafford played all that great. He definitely did enough to win and came up clutch in the end, which in the end he threw a pass and it was a pass interference. Like it wasn't even, some miraculous play, but Kyron Williams, he's probably going to be the focal point of that offense. So ride him, ride his play until,
Get his
Cooper Cup.
handcuff because
Cooper
he's been
Cooper
hurt.
comes back. Yeah, I
He
mean,
got
as
hurt
of right
last year.
now, his handcuff may be Ronnie Rivers, not really Blake Corum. But, we'll see. They drafted Blake for a reason. So I don't know. We'll see. Um,
and one more takeaway from the game, actually, kind of where you said it. Like, I know there's just a lot of back and forth on is Purdy legit, is he not legit?
yeah.
I think, yeah, they lost today, but I think the fact that he was still able to basically have the game almost won, have them
Yep.
playing really well without Kittle, without Debo, or even without McCaffrey.
Mhm.
I think we can start to put to bed like the Purdy doubt. I think he's good.
Yeah.
Is he 60 mil? Is he 60 million a year good? Maybe not, but he's good.
Well, I lump him in not in a talent, but in a situation perspective as a Tua, where Brock
Mhm.
Purdy, if you put him somewhere else, may not be great, but in this system with Kyle
Yeah.
Shanahan, he is the dude. So you pay him $60 million a year, not because he's one of the top five best quarterbacks in the league, but
No.
because he is the best quarterback to run this system and to win you games.
Yeah. Yep. Um, so next game I have here is gonna be Cardinals Lions or Lions Cardinals. It was in Arizona. Christian?
Don't really have a one liner, but I thought Marvin Harrison the third. We talked about him, I guess, week one of, week one, he was not really utilized. We even said not being a coach or not being a football coach. Obviously they know, hey, he had zero touches. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to go back, look at the game plan, figure out ways to get him involved. And I mean, the last 2 weeks he has flourished.
Yeah.
For me, that is the biggest takeaway. Obviously, they have other weapons on offense, James Conner.
Yeah.
But I thought he, in my opinion, has been the biggest surprise for this year.
Okay. Elliot.
That's mine too, but just to give a different take, I'll say really impressed with the Lions defense. That was, even though they had a good gear last year, that was essentially the thing that held them back. But it looks like they have fixed that. And this team, they're not pretenders. They are contenders because these are the kind of games, like kind of a sloppy. Those are the games you have to kind of win to prove yourself, and they did it.
Austin?
From a fantasy perspective, it feels like James Conner last year was what we expected Alvin Kamara to be this year. Like we kind of washed, like we kind of expected those guys to be older and washed. Connor did not have a good year last year after being the dude 2, 3 years ago. Um, but Connor can produce. Trey McBride, their tight end, gets the targets. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get some touches there. And Kyler, as long as there's not a big video game release, might very well be a competent quarterback. And again, growing up 45 minutes away from Norman, Oklahoma, hurts my heart to say that, but like Kyler Murray he may be putting it together, which is great for him, kind of scary for anyone that's going to play him.
And
Uh,
off nod, they hired their new head coach last year, and just with his intro and a lot of the videos they put out of like him meeting the team, man, I thought it was kind of gimmicky. I really didn't think he was going to be a fit. I thought, I mean, no. Obviously, this is the first full season that Kyler has been in the offense. And going through the off season, actually showing us, the first 3 weeks of the season so far, man, this has been a really, really good pairing for Kyler and for the Cardinals as a whole.
my takeaway, I watched a good bit of that game. Detroit's run game, I think, may be the best in the league. Um,
Both the running backs, double digits in fantasy. I
if
mean,
Jahmyr Gibbs was a number one running back, I think he would probably be the top running back in the league. I mean, just
Yeah.
watching him play, there's nothing he can't do.
Mm-mm.
But
that's
David
how
Montgomery is so good and so
Yeah.
consistent. Like Detroit
Why
has
why was David Montgomery
amazing.
not getting more love on fantasy, like on fantasy
It was
podcasts? Like
because I think people
he's
thought Jahmyr Gibbs would just take
would
over
just
the
take over.
backfield,
Yeah.
but I mean David Montgomery still is running the
Hmm.
ball well. He is capable of catching out of the backfield, so it's not like he
Yeah.
has to come out on third down. Just Detroit, man. If they can match a game where Jameson Williams and
St.
um
Brown.
yeah,
One off.
Jameson Williams and St. Brown can kind of coexist. Um, I Sky's the limit for that offense. Like it'll just come
Hmm.
down to Jared Goff. Um,
well. I mean, I think
and
the reality of like the Lions offense
yeah,
is Laporta's legit as well. They're tight end. You have two RB1s in your system. Like you have to pick who you take away. Like
yep,
you can
Hmm.
take away St. Brown. Well, Jameson, this may be the year for Jameson Williams. Like he is producing, he's feeding, he's doing what you want him to do. Oh, you want to take out Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
mm.
Laporta can eat. Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. David Montgomery down the between the tackles. Like Jared Goff is doing what he has to do, and he's
He
just
all Jared Goff has to do is just follow the playbook. That's all he has to do.
them keeping
Um,
both of their coordinators was
yep,
the win of the year.
Yeah.
yep,
Like
Yes.
them keeping both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn,
yep,
like
Hmm.
that. That's it. This is the last season because both of those guys are well, at least one of those guys is gone next
Yeah.
year.
yeah.
Keeping both of them puts the Lions up for success this year.
Hmm.
And as far as the Cardinals, obviously Harrison Jr. had a good game. Kyler was mid. He was okay. James Conner owners, such as myself, dud, doo-doo
Hmm.
week. So hopefully he'll be back next week. I expect him to still get work, still get catches out of the backfield. I wouldn't panic on James Conner there. Um, Next game I have here, Sunday Night Football, Chiefs, Falcons. Chiefs escaped again. Christian,
You
take
know,
away.
I think back to Dark Knight, and one of the key phrases is, you either die a hero or you see yourself live long enough to become a villain.
Yep.
Man, I used to love the Chiefs, and I say love the Chiefs as in like I liked their offense. I thought they were easy to like, as a fan perspective, easy to like. It seems like every week they always get bailed out with either a penalty call or a missed penalty call.
Or a dumb play call by the Falcons. Oh, sorry.
Exactly, and just I know it's a one-liner. It is, what is my take here? I feel like we walk away we really didn't learn anything. Atlanta is still a really great team. I feel like Atlanta will still probably win the division. If you have either of the running backs on the Falcons, hey man, they're going to produce. If you have Drake London, I think this is finally the year that he
Yep.
is going to be a top producing receiver.
Yep.
Shout out.
And
They
then
were brought up. They were brought up here about Drake London. Like maybe you keep him, maybe you see what happens week one over confidence. I'm a Bijan Robinson owner because he fell to me at 5, and I couldn't pass him up. But come on, man!
You could
Like
have.
I need like 35 points a game, not 17 or whatever. Like Arthur Smith is gone. The bad man is gone. Feed Bijan Robinson the damn ball. Like
Hmm.
Elliot, I'm gonna give my take, but Elliot, you go.
So my take is kind of similar to Christian, but from a different perspective. So I don't think we really learned anything. I mean, it was actually a pretty good game towards the end, but I think my takeaway is mind games. And what I mean by that is I'm starting to notice teams do with Kansas City kind of what they used to do with New England, or Alabama in college, or like maybe USC back during like Pete Carroll's days, where a team will actually be outplaying them and and a chance to maybe win the game, and they just get tight. And I
Yeah.
think we're kind of seeing the Chiefs become what the Patriots were, where like even if you outplayed them, you when you have the chance to make that play or that play call or that decision, you just get tight because you're under the pressure of like, oh, that's the Chiefs across the field. That's Mahomes. That's Brady. That's Saban. And I think that's kind of the era we are with the Chiefs right now, where if you look at the past, literally all three games this year, you can make a legit case, with the exception of tonight, that they were outplayed. But because, like Christian bet, either a last minute penalty or Isaiah Likely's toe for like an inch is out of bounds, like it just doesn't work. Like teams just get like they get intimidated by that logo on the helmet.
Yeah, well, and I'll harp in on the Chiefs side of things, like from a fantasy perspective versus football perspective. Football perspective, like the Chiefs just find ways to win games, and it's hard to bet against the Chiefs, whether it's a 1 point game or a 30 point game. From a fantasy perspective, there's not a single damn person worth rostering outside of Rasheed Rice. Like the Chiefs are useless from a fantasy perspective.
Hey, I'll add. I have Xavier Worthy. He is boomer bust. He's either going to have 2 touches and a touchdown or nothing at all.
But he only had 2 touches and a touchdown once. We're talking about 33%. Come on, like so, like the Chiefs from a football perspective. I'm a big Chiefs fan, not as a longtime fan or a proximity fan, but because like it's impressive that they always find a way. They always produce. Like Patrick Mahomes never makes the wrong decision. And so, from a football perspective, the Chiefs are really impressive to me as just a football fan. From a fantasy perspective, the Patrick Mahomes of like 3 years ago is dead. He's gone.
It's
He's
done,
not going to
done.
be a dude. Like, he's
Mm-mm.
not the number one quarterback. Uh, the only fantasy relevant person on the Chiefs is Rasheed Rice. The Chiefs are a great football team. I would love to see him three-peat just for the
History.
history of
Yeah.
it. And until they prove that they can't win, they deserve the benefit of the doubt. But from a fantasy perspective, Pat Mahomes is not a guy to start. Travis Kelsey's not a guy to start. Xavier Worthy's not a guy to start. It's Rasheed Rice or bust. And obviously, Pat Mahomes is a guy to start if you drafted him. But like, there's a lot of other guys that are producing better fantasy numbers than Patrick Mahomes. So it's a tough situation to be in, harping on the football versus fantasy side of things.
My take,
Yeah.
I know, Christian, you said either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I still don't see the Chiefs as a villain. I don't think that they're one of those teams or organizations who go out and try and crap on other teams and say we're better and this and that. They go out, they play hard. Going back to Austin's point, teams have taken the top off the defense Chiefs. Which why Xavier Worthy drafting him, thanks to Buffalo, was important because you need someone to stretch that field. And I think the Chiefs have become sort of what the Patriots were a couple years ago. Dominant defense, good running game, try not to make a lot of mistakes, and a quarterback who comes through in the clutch. Um, I don't think Mahomes necessarily played that bad tonight. I mean, he had a pick, but that was early in the game, down at the goal line. He had 217 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's a good day in fantasy, especially if had CJ Stroud. But obviously, Rashee Rice, he should have been a first round pick in fantasy, just by the way, looking at it. 14 targets. I mean, geez, 12 catches, over 100 yards. He looks like Mahomes' go to guy. And another player until Pacheco comes back, if it's any, of what we saw tonight, Carson Steele. He had
Mm-hmm.
17 carries. That's more than what I thought he was going to get. He had 2 punches down at the goal line that he couldn't cash in. Had he made those, he'd be one of your waiver wire pickups. People would be looking at it differently. So I think Carson still could be a pickup. I wouldn't say he's an RB1 or anything, but if you're stuck in a bind, if you got injuries, Joe Mixon or something, could be a useful RB2. He'll have opportunities with the Chiefs, and he caught one pass, but the Chiefs weren't really throwing to their running backs a lot. I don't think. They were looking for Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce is done. I'd be done with him. Xavier Worthy, I mean, he's a boomer bust. If you're down 50, put him in. See if he can get you 50. If not, I would go with someone with a higher floor. Um, and on the Falcon side, Drake London, good pick, good call, Elliott. And Bijan Robinson, I think he's real life. He's a top 5 running back in the league. But I
Mhm.
wouldn't sleep on Tyler Algier. Like watching him play, he looks like a good NFL running back. I see why they give
Mhm.
him touches. I see why they give him carries. Um, and I think over the course of the season, especially in Atlanta, believing that they can make the playoffs, you don't want to wear down your best player in Bijan. So he's a good guy to come in. I think he's a bit bigger than Algier. Even on that last play call, I probably would have ran it right up the gut instead of trying to do some kind of wishbone to the side.
Yeah, that was
Um,
weird.
that was stupid. But that goes to Elliott, your take. Like, were they just trying to outsmart the Chiefs? Was it the fact that Chris Jones was right there? They were scared to run at him. But I just think if the Chiefs hadn't won 2 straight Super Bowls, and if it wasn't for all this Taylor Swift craze, I think people would just be looking at the Chiefs like, man, like they're coming up in the clutch and making plays rather than, God, I'm sick of them escaping type situation. And give props to their defense.
Mhm.
Atlanta had the chance to win it there at the end, and they
Yeah,
came up short
twice.
on a 4th and 1. Like that's
Right.
insane. So,
Well,
um,
the Chiefs feel very much like that New England defense when they were dominant. Like
yep,
they had incredible guys, but like not the top 5 sack leader, not the top 5
yep,
enters. Like they function as a unit. And
yep,
like I just checked on ESPN Fantasy, Mahomes is the number 13 quarterback. So in a
yep,
10-team league, you're not even starting it.
yeah,
And they also signed Kareem Hunt to the practice squad, and
yeah,
Kareem Hunt
Mhm.
went bananas his first year in Kansas City. So
yeah.
like it's a tough. The
I
Chiefs
will
from a
say
fantasy
his
perspective,
first carry in Kansas City was a fumble. If you remember that, I think they played the Patriots Thursday night, and I had Kareem Hunt, and I remember thinking he's about to get
I
benched.
remember that. I remember that game.
Yep, his
Cause
first carry was a
you
fumble.
texted me in a panic. I was like, bro,
Yep. I
calm,
said he's about to get
stop.
benched. He's about to get benched. Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens when Kareem Hunt comes back. I was impressed with Carson Steele. I'm glad he didn't fumble. He didn't make any mistakes. Um,
well, that's
he
Chiefs football. At this point, that's Chiefs
yeah,
football. Is
yeah.
don't make mistakes and
Well,
let.
Mahomes has made a lot of mistakes. The thing is his defense has bailed him out. They are playing lights out. Chris Jones, I think TJ Watt is the best defensive lineman. Then you got your linebackers and Michael Parsons, but Chris Jones, he may be second, even just his impact in the game. Trent McDuffie, he's gonna get paid. The cornerback for the Chiefs shut down. The league is kind of lucky they lost L'Jarius Sneed in free
Yeah.
agency. So otherwise, I mean, they're a defensive team now. And then you have the best quarterback in the league with Mahomes. So I don't know. I don't want to say the three-peat is cooking, but they'll definitely make the playoffs. They'll definitely be a tough out. They'll probably have a home game. Um, say what you want, the refs may be on their side. So if you go in there, like you're gonna have to beat them. And I think the Bengals could do it. Not sure about the Bills. I'm still questioning their
The
wide
Bengals could do
receivers.
it 2 years ago, but the Bengals aren't showing they can do it this year.
Well, granted, they were without T. Higgins, so I want to see how they look when he returns.
I think
Yeah.
losing Joe Mixon's going to hurt
So
them more than we think.
I would
it
even say
will.
last year the
Um,
once they
yeah,
started slow, and once they got to October, that was when they started hitting their stride. So maybe
yeah,
they're just a slow
Yeah.
starting team in the season.
The Bengals
yeah.
definitely will not be afraid to go in Kansas City.
No,
Like
They're
they
probably the
no,
one team that's not afraid.
yeah. And last game here, we missed it on Thursday. Good old Patriots and Jets. Christian, take it away.
Yeah. no one liner, but Aaron Rodgers. I have him in one of my leagues, a two quarterback league, and I wish I had started him. Obviously, it's a Thursday night game, so you want to wait to see what's going to happen on Sunday. But it looked like this is what can happen if you have all the pieces. If you have all the fit, Lazard is playing out of his mind. You've got now, and we talked about earlier, two running backs for the Jets. It looks like they can be there. But if you're the Patriots, I'm not saying that they're bad. They are bad.
They're bad.
They're bad. They're bad. They are a year or 2 years away. And it's not a dig at them. If they want to keep Drake May, and obviously, he's not starting. If they want to keep Drake May, they're going to have to take some time, be patient, and try to build around him through the draft and through free agency.
Elliott?
Yeah, I mean, really the takeaway is, Aaron Rodgers he still can do it. Actually, from a fantasy perspective, I know we talked with Christian about like the running back handcuffs. Honestly, I feel like Braylon Allen, and I didn't like say this earlier, but honestly, I feel like he's somebody you could play now, even though Brees Hall is playing healthy. Like he's playing that good, and the Jets clearly, like they clearly envision him as a crucial role in the offense because he's not just coming in to spell Brees Hall. Like he's coming in with his own like package with his own plays. But obviously to see what I guess a takeaway would be, what's next. I think the Jets actually have a pretty favorable schedule in the next couple of weeks. One, they get like a couple of days extra rest,
Yeah.
and that I think they play the Broncos next, which the Broncos look good today, but still a young team. So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see can they build momentum off of this.
Austin?
I mean, highs and lows, and is the one liner where like if Aaron Rodgers has this in him, but is this who Aaron Rodgers is for the rest of the season? He's a Hall of Fame first ballot guy, but this is the third week, and the Jets defense has been very underwhelming, which is shocking considering the goal at the beginning of the season was all the stats were like if the defense, if Aaron Rodgers scores or if the defense holds the other team to under like 20 points, Aaron Rodgers is like 110 to like and one or something like that. Like all
Yeah.
sorts of crazy stats. But the defense just hasn't been what we thought they would be. Now I think that will change because that talent doesn't go away. Sauce Gardner is a DB1. Quentin Williams is just a problem in
Yep.
the middle of the line. Like, so the Jets, the challenge with the Jets is like we were hoping to see a second season of this,
Yeah.
but last year, what 4 snaps in, we don't see it.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like the vibe is there between him and Garrett Wilson yet. Like I think it'll get there, but there's just a lot of questions, like a lot of stuff up in the air with what the Jets can do and what Aaron Rodgers can consistently contribute. You've got guys at every level, but like ups and downs. Like, is this the up? Is week 3 on what we're going to see, or are we going to see the stuff we
Uh,
saw week 1 and 2?
my takeaway, the Patriots stink. I wouldn't play anyone from them. I know, Christian, if I'm not mistaken, you had Ramondre Stevenson, but I don't think the Patriots you should be using anyone from the Patriots. If you're stuck in a pinch, you can probably get away with Ramondre Stevenson, maybe Antonio Gibson if Stevenson gets hurt. Other than that, they're not on my radar. The
Yeah.
Jets,
The only player I will say that actually had value from this past week was Demario Douglas.
okay. I was gonna say, don't say Hunter Henry. Um,
No.
I started him.
Yeah.
Yep. The Jets, I actually picked them to make it to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. I thought their defense would be dominant. It hasn't been, to Austin's point. Brees Hall looks amazing. I'm actually, as a Brees Hall owner, I'm actually glad they're using Braylon Allen because I don't want Brees Hall to get hurt. And I think Brees gets enough catches to lose a couple of carries. Um, just give me one touchdown a game or give me 5 catches a game. The rest will work itself out, which Brees has been doing. And I have no problem with them using Braylon Allen a little bit. Especially I have him on my bench just in case Brees Hall gets hurt. So if he does get hurt, Braylon Allen is already getting game reps. He's already getting gameplay. So he
He'll
would
go
be a
nuts.
backup.
He would go absolutely
He
nuts
would.
if Brees
And
Hall went down.
um, like Ellie was saying, he's a good backup. I would definitely pick up Braylon Allen. As far as Garrett Wilson, I remember I was texting Elliott on Thursday, like, I don't know what the deal, like, why would you not throw to your best player? Um, and man, that was a sweet throw and catch on that touchdown. Roger still has some juice in him. I think Rodgers could be good for 220 yards, a touchdown, maybe two. I would say 220, 1.5 touchdowns a week, especially when they're finding this consistency. To start the season, they played San Francisco. The second game, who they played, the Titans. That's a really good
Mhm.
secondary. They just played the Patriots. You had Christian Gonzalez. So I do think eventually the schedule will get easier. Now, next week, they play Denver. Garrett Wilson will probably have Pat Surtain. Probably won't be a good matchup, but um, I think Garrett Wilson is a hold unless you can get somebody like a Amon Ra, St. Brown for him. I would take him over Tyreek Hill right now. But that's my takeaway on the Jets. I think if they find their stride, especially defensively, they're going to be a problem. They could be a problem for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So, and before we sign off, any players you guys want to look for in the two Monday night games tomorrow? You got Jaguars, Bills, and you got Commanders, Bengals.
Well, I've got two people starting in that Monday night game. I've got Etienne and Daniels.
Yeah,
So come on, I need to beat you.
yeah,
Those are my guys.
I
So,
got you.
uh,
He-
but I've been harping on Brian Thomas Jr. because like he's another one of those LSU wide receivers that ended up in the league and he's getting some looks. Like he could be sneaky. He's on my bench, but
Yeah,
like uh the he I think he's the most talented wide receiver in that room, and talent has a way of kind of producing. So
yeah.
I think depending on game script and stuff like that, like Brian Thomas Jr. could be a sneaky play, especially after Sunday night. If you're down, like go big, go home, like put him in the flex, see if you can get some points.
Christian?
Yeah. So I have two players playing in the game. I have James Cook and I also have sorry, Jane Daniels, lost him. But here's two players that I think you maybe think about or at least evaluate further: the tight end position. So if you have Dalton Kincaid, and I know we talked about that last week, I don't really know if it's worth. If you have him on your roster, you're probably going to keep him, right? Because you probably drafted him really, really early for a tight end. But maybe do you want to look at other options? I'll take another league. I have Evan Ingram. He's missed the last 2 weeks with injury. Hey, I know that happens, but also like I said, you have to think: is it worth evaluating the tight end and trying to find somebody else? So I would just say look at the tight end position in both of the games that are tomorrow. Maybe evaluate, maybe see if that's somebody that you want to pick up. Just take it from there.
Elliot?
yeah, I've got Brian Robinson Jr. I've got him in the lead tomorrow, and I've got of course Josh Allen. You can't really go wrong with Josh Allen.
You
I do
can.
think though with Josh Allen,
Yeah,
like
you
I
can.
this is a little different. This is gonna be a different Josh Allen than we're used to. I don't think we're gonna be seeing the 350 yards and then 70 rushing yards and however many touchdowns that you get with that. I think we're gonna be seeing a little more of a kind of Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers kind of version of him, where it's like, well, my
good.
running game is great, and the defense isn't necessarily great, but it's good. So he may not be as dominant as you'd expect, but he's still somebody I play. But Brian Robinson Jr. has been low key pretty good as a running back, and when you got a running quarterback to help you,
Yeah.
that only makes you better. And I'm interested to see how does James Daniels look with a in prime time against a defense that's good, not great, but it's good. Like can he take strides and take steps forward like Bo Nix did?
Well, this is the Warren v. Austin week where it's 2v1 right now. He had Saquon, which is unfair, but
Mm-hmm.
it's Warren's rolling with Allen, and I've got Daniels and Etienne. So
Yeah.
we gotta. I'm hoping Josh Allen goes for 120 yards in the air,
Rushing.
one pick, 25 yards rushing, and a fumble. Like that. That's kind of what I'm kind of hoping for from Josh Allen.
Yeah, I'm up 10. I've got Allen. He's got ETN and Daniels. What scares me is the rushing for Daniels, but Ellie, you saying you can't go wrong with Josh Allen? You can. I started him last week. He was terrible, even though the Bills dominated. But two players that I want to watch tomorrow, one being Austin Eckler. He low key had a decent game last week, PPR wise, and I'm interested to see how they integrate him more into the offense, or do they still lean more towards Brian Robinson? And another player that I want to watch is Terry McLaurin. He's been
Scary Terry.
awful, god awful. And I think the Bengals have a good secondary, so I don't expect a good game from him. But if Joe Burrow comes back and be the Joe Burrow that we think he should be with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase back together on the field at the same time, Daniels could be chasing points, and I'm interested to see how many targets McLaurin gets. So
Mhm.
we'll see how that goes. Final thoughts here on the show. Appreciate you guys staying here for week 3, and we'll be back week 4, and make sure we get you right. Appreciate you
Hey, it's
guys.
so fun. Appreciate it, guys.
All right.